saan man magtungo. Tuwing nalulumbay, ginhawa ng puso, itong aming dasal. Kapag naliligaw, kami akayin mo sa landas na wasto, kung saan patungo sa iyo. Ang among pag-ampo, o Diyos, dungga kami sa matag hikayo. Ikaw ang kahayag. Let this be our prayer when we lose our way. Samtang naapami, kami akayin mo. Give us faith so we'll be saved. Panalangin namin kami ay papalain, na kahit sa dilim nawa'y makita liwanag ng pag-ibig mo. Dakila at di na mawalay sa iyong gabay. O Diyos, aming hiling, we ask that light be kind. Yapang daigdig, kami alagaran. Ang buhay na lagi sa imo kasali. Puspos ng iyong pag-ibig, hanggang sa utulo. Aming panalangin, among pag-ampo, tulad ng sampasli, just like every child. Samtang naapami, kami akayin mo. Give us faith so we'll be saved. Ang nasa mundo, kami akayin mo. Kung saan patungo sa iyo.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, ay masasilanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay, lupang binili.
Hello, good morning everyone. Welcome to the Kapihan, a virtual talk show on academic resilience during the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Neil Alfie Lasta, and I am a science teacher from the Integrated Developmental School. I will be co-hosting this event alongside my partner, Ma'am Rebecca.
Yes, Sir Neil. Good morning, everyone. I am Maria Rebecca O. Flores, a math teacher from the Integrated Developmental School, and I'm here this morning with my partner, Neil, to listen to the point of views of our guests regarding the theme Academic Resilience through Unity, Understanding, Cooperation, and Transformative Leadership.
Before we introduce our guests, let us first listen to Dr. Amelia Tibuan, the College of Education Dean, for her welcome message.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for all of you who are here today in our Kapihan, a talk show to academic resilience event as part of the 37th Day Foundation Day celebration. Before we get started, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all of you who generously helped us, the committee members, the invited discussant, who shared their precious time to make this Kapihan a successful one. This discussion today is very interesting for all of us because this event will discuss promoting academic resilience that will lead us to better results. I hope this Kapihan, students, parents, and educators will reflect on our situation and strategically plan to improve our practice at home, school, in achieving positive educational outcome despite the challenges brought by COVID-19 pandemic. So enjoy the discussion today and have a great day, everyone.
So much, Dean Ami. That was definitely enough reason to justify our existence for this morning. So, to proceed, let us now go to the introduction of guests. I know you're all interested to know who are they. Let's first start with Angela Revelo, a grade 10 student from the Integrated Developmental School who will join us virtually. Hi, Angelo.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Also joining us virtually is my grade 12 student, Dale Francis Cabigas. Now, Dale has an interesting story. He is a grade 7 to grade 10 student from Misamis Occidental, but he decided to enroll in IDS for his senior high school years. So please help me welcome Dale Francis Cabigas.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Dale. Now joining us on stage is a mother and son tandem. We have here a grade 12 student from the IDS, Nestor Grahida, joined by his mom, Dr. Shadel Grahida, who happens to be a faculty of the College of Education.
Morning. Hi, good morning.
We also have with us my former student from IDS, Vel Marie C. Palisbo. I'm proud to say that she is currently a faculty member of the De La Salle University Zobel, and she is also an alumnus of the College of Education. And I'd like to point out that she is a top-notcher when she took the board exam. So, Vel, welcome to our talk show.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Hi.
Hi, Vel.
Hi, ma'am. Hi, sir.
Good morning. Also on stage is Miss Stephanie Semeni, a student from the College of Education who just finished her practice teaching. And of course, it was also done virtually. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, ma'am. Good morning, everyone.
One of our guests is Christine Meiti. She is a MSIED, MSciEd graduate from the College of Education. Hello, Christine.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
And joining us and the guest today is an expert in the field of clinical psychology and an academician. Joining us virtually is Dr. Imelu G. Mordeno. Hello, sir.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope that I can contribute something here today. Hello, everyone.
Hello, sir. Thank you, and welcome once again, guests, to our Kapihan. How are you all doing? Are you okay? All right. I hope you're all doing okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, before we proceed to the first question, I know all of us are already familiar with the inflex modality. Do you agree? And also, it has been in practice in other countries for how many years? However, in our country, Philippines, because of this pandemic, this is the first time that it was applied to all year levels. Now, because of the sudden change, I want to know what is going on well with you despite of that changes. I would like to direct the first question to Stephanie.
Hey, thank you, Mom. So, online learning indeed is challenging. However, it taught me more important about the realities in life. One of it is that you really have to independent, and you should not be afraid to learn new things on your own. Unlike face-to-face learning, students often rely upon what their teachers would teach them. Yet in online learning, you really have to um, explore and try new things on your own. And online learning also taught me how important is it to live with integrity as a student and an individual. You really have to be honest in everything you do, and instead of being lax, it taught me how to maintain discipline in managing my time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Stephanie. Indeed, the success of this modality also depends on your openness as a student. Do you agree, partner?
I agree. With this kind of setup, it's very difficult to keep the integrity of tests. Based on my experience, so easy to cheat. And so Stephanie really pointed out the importance of doing what you know is right even when no one is looking. And I also agree that this kind of setup will allow you to access the resources online on your own, so you have to be independent. But I'd like to throw this question as well to Ma'am Grajeda, Dr. Sidel Grajeda.
Okay. Oh, it's such indeed a struggle for both parties. It's struggle for the teachers as well as the students. That's why I always remind the students with this pandemic, this is really quite different. This is not really focused on grades, but it's the learning. So if there is distant learning, there is distant cheating. So I always remind them that you can do anything, everything what you want because you're already at the comfort of your home. But in the end, you really have to really try your best, because in the end, you're the loser, not us. So that's why it should be a cooperation between both parties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that idea, Ma'am. I really agree that it must be from both parties, because how difficult the teacher how hard is for us teachers to prepare our module, but if the students will not cooperate with us, then we'll not go anywhere, right?
I agree.
Now let's direct our question to our students. Let's have Nestor first.
Yeah, it's certainly true that thanks to online classes, things are very much different from how they once were. But actually, in my opinion, I think that what happens thanks to online classes is that by virtue of like the assignments usually having deadlines of 1 or 2 weeks, but they are possible to do in a day. I found that it helps to do it in the day that it's given. The moment the assignment is given to you, just do it on that day, as opposed to waiting for a day before the deadline. Because what that does is that creates a surplus of time where you can do pretty much whatever you wanted to do. Things that you can't do when you're inside a classroom with almost no access to the internet, sometimes without a charger. You can do things like make projects in other subjects, or you can possibly learn something else. These are things that you can very much do thanks to one, the surplus of time you have from the modules, and two, the freedom you have in your own home. Thank you.
Okay, so take note, students. It's the time and the freedom. How about Angelo? What can you say about this?
Learning was a nuisance at first, but it became a blessing in disguise. Initially, it was annoying and felt really odd because I had the same routine when going to school since kindergarten. You know ka, umata ka, kaon, maligo, mag-change into uniform, then went to school. But now, since it's the pandemic, we can't really go to school now. We're only going to our rooms. So that was really, uh, that really that really gave me a chance to reorganize and rethink how I approach school as a whole. And as mentioned by Mom Stephanie, it is a very challenging thing to manage your time, especially now since ever, because we cannot really stick to a concrete schedule like before, when during 7:30 to 8:30 that's homeroom schedule, from 8:30 to 9 a.m. that's I would say that would be break time. Now it's just very vague. The schedule is very vague, so it was really a challenge to approach school in this space. And since we still have no classrooms, or at least in our home, we don't have a room or a space made especially for learning. So I guess it was really a challenging part of this online startup, but it became a blessing in disguise because it gave me the chance to rethink and reorganize how I really approach school. So now I can be, my time management is better, and I guess overall mentally and academically, I'm much more resilient than I am before.
Thank you, Angelo. I've had several students tell me, Ma'am Rebecca, that ever since the pandemic started, they become more organized in the sense that they realized, as Nestor pointed out, that they really can't cram. And I hope that's true for all, but it's true for a lot of my students. Because, yeah, okay.
Yes, in other words, that made them more responsible.
Well, I hope so, and that's what they tell me anyway. They have become, realize that there are consequences to doing things behind, and baka mag-pile up man good, basta daghan na kay sila buhatunan. And that's also probably a consequence of us teachers giving them lots of things to do, but that's for another topic.
Okay. I think it's time for a second question.
Yeah, I think we on that note, we have to talk about the challenges that both students, parents, and teachers face, because it's not all fun and games, this online thing. I'd like to ask Dale Francis what his thoughts are regarding the hardships he encountered during this pandemic. Dale.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think that the aspect that I had a hard time dealing with during this pandemic is that the physical aspect is what I think it is. Since first we suddenly had to undergo quarantine or lockdown, so meaning my 7-month life in Iligan City has been crippled. The morning routines, the time that I need to travel from Oroquieta City to Iligan, sitting on the bus for 4 hours, and all, it just felt so weird now that I couldn't do that anymore this time. And then I think that I may have felt the slightest bit of cabin fever, which means that I never really got outside the house for about 3 months. And also, when we wear face masks and face shields when going out in public, I think my body had to, adjust a little bit, since we're not really used to having obstacles on our faces. And then Also, I think I felt that there are some uncertainties and questions that I needed to ask myself regarding the future, since I think for now the future is still quite dark, and even if the restrictions are being lifted slowly, I think it's still not enough for me to think that everything is back to normal. See, knowing that the time that I had back in Iligan was so memorable, and now I think it just vanishes without a trace. I think that's all. The physical aspect really crippled as a part of my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. How about Vel? As a teacher, I'd like for you to answer this question from your perspective as a teacher. What challenges have you faced during this pandemic?
Um, right. Uh, our students faced a lot of difficulties with in during this pandemic, as well as the teachers. So on my side, I'm sure some of our students can relate to it as well. No, we are all forced to use a different learning and teaching modality because of the pandemic. And first of all, yung technological limitations, 'di ba? I'm sure our students can also relate. Our teachers are also experiencing difficulties as well, like no gadget or internet connection problems, right? Ano pa ba yung, kung sa pa may naapoy ka ng mga distractions, of course, teachers are also experiencing that, right? Another thing is social interaction, which I'm sure our students can very much relate to that. We all need social interaction. I mean, when we face our gadgets, it's not enough, right? We need to see people, to be with people, to talk to people. So I think those are some of the challenges that teachers and students have also faced in the pandemic.
Thank you, Vel. I'd like to address this question to Christine T. I've heard that you performed your thesis with the original intention of doing it face-to-face, but then this pandemic happened. And what had you do to adjust to this new set of circumstances?
Okay. First and foremost, the pandemic really hit me hard and made me realize that life indeed is uncertain, that and all your plans will vanish in just an instant. Can you hear me? And that I think as a graduate student, I have a lot of troubles and struggles that I have encountered to achieve my predestined goal, which is to graduate on time. First, I have already established my paper before year 2020, early months of 2020. So I need to revise this paper in order to fit in the new normal setting. So yes, life now is very very difficult, right? So we need to adjust and survive in order to cope up with the complexity of life. So I learned about e-learning platforms and e-learning programs in order for me to conduct my study online. So during the conduct of my study, I have experienced a lot of troubles like slow internet connection, and also as what Ma'am Vel said, that interacting and managing students' behavior. So I have observed that students are not willing to open their cams during the online session. I don't know why, but maybe because they are too shy or unprepared, wala kaligo guro, or they are doing some multitasking jobs, right? So like what I have seen in my brother, tingala ko niya kay kuan kanang magdula siya, di ana siya magklase daw siya. Kung gadula ka din ga klase. Unsa man na? Siya kaya ra nitig. Kuno naminaw mapugkon, kung naminaw din gadula kaya. Okay, so siguro siguro makaya nila. That's it. Then lastly, the most challenging part in this pandemic, especially that I am a graduating student, is the emotional conflict, or the inner self problem that I have encountered. uh, uh, I have I have doubts and troubles that I could finish my study now because of this. Kay kuan kanang kuan lagi ang ako ang paper is face to face dayon I am not accustomed to the new setup. So I really wonder if I could really make this. Could I really make this? Right? Then but in the end of the day, I always think that if you are just sitting in your house doing nothing, you will always feel bored and weary. So why not finish what you started and be productive? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. That's definitely resilience, no? She was able to change that fast in order to cater to what we have right now. So I know, audience and listeners, you're able to hear both the positive and the negative impact of this pandemic. Now, this time I want to give the chance to our expert, Dr. Mordeno. Sir, good morning again. As a psychologist and one of our parents as well, what is your professional opinion about the answers of our guests in both questions?
Hi, good morning to both of you hosts, no, and to those who listen to and view rather this forum. Yes, I am afraid, no, that not all students are surviving well with regard to coping with the new normal. Although for some, I'm also excited because they have, shall we say, found their way in order to recover and cope with the online learning. You know. Just recently have a number of students who are actually coming from Pisay, coming from IDS, Santa Fe, and some other schools all over Mindanao, who are actually amplifying, no, their difficulties because of their online experience. I would like to validate that there are students who really did well in coping with. In fact, what Angelo said kanina, that they are, it's a blessing in disguise in a way. Yes, that's correct. Because for some, you know, there are certain personality traits where whom you know can cope immediately with all the challenges in life. But also, they are individuals like the one who shared kanina as a graduate school, that it somehow confronts them, no, with regard to their quote-unquote problems in the existing reality, no. In our studies, there are two paths, no. So first is actually the recovery and the resilience, and the second path, and the other path really is actually the debilitating of mental health condition. In the debilitation of mental health condition, the pandemic brought two things, no. First, it created a mental health disturbance and difficulties, you know, because of the pandemic. At the same time, or not at the same time, but on the other hand, okay, in one hand, the pandemic creates a mental health condition quite debilitating. On the other hand, there are pre-existing mental health conditions. Like, for example, a student is already depressed. With the current pandemic situation, with the current COVID-19 pandemic, they became more depressed, more anxious. So it amplified basically the pre-existing mental health condition. So we conducted a number of studies most recently, no, and for example, anxiety and depression, it basically reaches around to a point of 30 to 70% of the respondents, no, coming from different or all walks of in life. So teachers, even HR professionals, even counselors, even deputy teachers, teachers in college, higher education, they are actually also somehow are experiencing this debilitating condition. Before I will end this particular statement. You know, usually in epidemiology, if you have an 8 to 12% of the population, or even estimated population or sample population, if you have 8 to 12%, you have already a crisis. We call that epidemic, right? But here in our studies, it's around 30 to 60%. So the mental health condition is already in crisis also. No? So that's what I usually call a crisis within a crisis. No? And I guess we need, and I guess I'm happy that this is also an avenue for us to discuss about all these things, the difficulties of students, the experiences of students with regard to the online education, as it affects definitely their mental health condition. Back to you, Neil.
Much, Doc. So it's really indeed true that mental health is the big issue. And I myself, sometimes I get scared. Am I a victim of this circumstance too? But what really matters is our family. And we need someone to talk to. Because once we already started sharing stuff with other people, it makes us feel lighter. Okay, how about you, Sir Neil?
I can sense that you're feeling a little bit emotional, Ma'am Rebecca, and I definitely agree with everything that Sir Moreno said. Although it's enlightening, I don't know if you guys are enlightened as well, that this whole thing, we only look at the physical aspect to it, but mentally and emotionally, it's putting a huge toll on those who already have pre-existing mental health conditions. It's very enlightening, Dr. Mordeno. We'll ask for your opinion again later after a new set of questions, Sir Mordeno. But for now, let's have a break. Let's listen to one of the music teachers from IDS, Sir Calvin Klein Galbines, as he shares to us instrumental rendition. This is a video during the times when social distancing is not yet a thing. So please enjoy this instrumental video. welcome back to the Kapihan virtual talk show. If I would describe that video in one word, I'd say nostalgia. Would you agree, Ma'am Rebecca? No, just seeing the crowd, no social distancing, no face masks and face shields. Now, we are teachers and students, and most of us are related to the academe. So, this next question is all about the experience of teaching during the pandemic. How do we keep our students engaged in learning versus just completing the task? Because that's one of the main concerns that our students have. I'd like to direct this question to my former student, Vel, who is joining us virtually. Hello, Vel.
Hi again. Based on my experience, even during the face-to-face mode of teaching, it's really hard to force students to do something that they do not want to do. So, saan pa karon nga online ang atong mode, or we have different teaching modality. We're not with them there inside the classroom. So, ang pinakauna nga akong gusto i-share sa atong mga viewers and listeners today is for us to allow our students to realize the importance of what you are teaching. That's the very first thing. So, dili ta dili ta pagod nga mag-explain, no? Ngano man ta magtuon ani, nganong kinahanglan nato ni siya ma-learn, unsa importance ani in the future. Because once they get to realize, hopefully na realization sa atong students, no, the importance of what you are teaching, then they will be more motivated to accomplish tasks and to learn in general. Unsa pa man, aside from showing them the importance, sincerity is also very important, dear teachers, no? Kasi ay kay kanang makit-an man gud sa mga bata if you are just teaching for the sake of teaching versus you are teaching kay gusto nimo nga naa sila matun-an. I'm sure our students will agree with that, no? Nga makit-an gyud nila ang kung unsa ang passion sa isa ka teacher. 'Di ba? By the way they talk, how they form their words, no? And kung unsaon nila pag-teach in general. Unsa pa man, aside from of course those things, syempre important pod labaw na lahi na atong mode of teaching karon, important pod nga ang teachers kay we are updated with different apps and technologies that we can use in order to make our lesson more interesting. Okay? Ako for example, nagtuon pud ko og mga lahi-lahi nga mga applications kay awareness is also very important to kung unsa ang mga naa dira karon nga basin pwede din nimo magamit sa imong klase. So update yourself, dear teachers. Unsa pa man, allow students to ask questions as well. Dili kay ikaw ra magsigig storya for 1 hour or 2 hours. So allow your students to ask questions or to explain themselves. Kay dira ma-engage jud sila sa learning. Unsa pa man, lastly, again, hopefully no kitang tanan, I'm sure our teachers are also tired as well, pero keep the fire burning, dear teachers, kay para ma-inspire po ato mga students nga ma-learn sa ato. Ayan. Thank you.
Well, so if I am to summarize that, first is learning should be authentic, then you should be sincere, then you should be updated, and you have to keep the fire burning. So in my own opinion, it doesn't really have a lot of difference, no, from face-to-face or online. Diba? Because whether it's face-to-face or online, those things are still very important. Okay, so how about you, Christine?
I want to elaborate on my study of the graduate study. So my study is all about STEM education. So it seeks to integrate science, technology, engineering, and mathematics skills to academic concepts. Now, one nature of STEM education is for the students to identify problems in the community. And then, they will design solutions to solve those cited problems. Now, our target in my study when I conduct it in IDS, So our target problem is the non-stop use of non-renewable materials, or I mean non-renewable sources that supplies our electric power in the community. Yet there is an advantage. We cannot forget the disadvantage, which is if it pollutes the environment, as well as it releases excessive carbon dioxide that could cause global warming. Now the challenge here is how are we going to minimize those detrimental effects, and what are the possible valuable solutions that we could supply. So the solutions that we agree, the solution that we agreed is about building or creating creating a turbine prototype model, which is used as which is a tool used in harnessing mechanical energy from renewable sources such as water and wind. Now, in the process of doing their project, I encourage students to use raw or recyclable materials that are readily available in their houses or communities. By doing so, I could promote to the students meaningful learning, and they could also apply their learning to real life cases. That's it.
Thank you, Christine, for pointing out a very specific example of engaging students. I'd like to ask Dr. Gaida as well.
Okay, I strongly agree with what has been mentioned, that we have to really be innovative, and of course we have to upgrade ourselves. Like what I've noticed, this is like my personal experience. Like I've been noticing my son, he's so engaged. So I was trying to observe, and it's about the apps. I think Teacher Neil, you applied that one. That's Discord and quizzes, something like that. So actually, it applies very well with this kind of students, right? But in the College of Education, it might not be very applicable with them because of the internet problem, everything. So what I do, there's this one example. It's very true that we have to really know, number one, their situation and their interest. It's very important. They will be engaged if they're interested in the activities that we are giving them. So in whatever concepts or whatever subject you are teaching, you have to really know first if it is workable with them. If we are going to let them, like for example, I'll give you one specific example. I am handling this one subject, which is building literacy across curriculum. And one of the literacy is ecological literacy. So that is very interesting, especially in this situation now when everybody is planting and things like that. So in their final output, I let them do a video, and that was their final. Aside from they're very interested in doing it, and then they are just, it should be safe. We have to consider that whatever output we have to ask from them, they are safe. So they're just doing it in their own home. So I really believe so much that we have to be considerate also with their situation, and we have to be very flexible also in whatever outputs we're going to give them. We have to really understand also their situation.
I remember that some experts have referred to this situation we are currently in as not online teaching or online learning, but as emergency remote learning. So our teachers have really used their creativity in a very short span of time to come up with very relevant and effective teaching methods. And so far, I think it's been working pretty well. But we have, yes, Ma'am Rebecca, do you have anything else to say?
I think it's now time for the next question.
Okay.
Okay, so this time it's the turn of the students. We were able to ask the teachers on how they keep the students engaged. This time I want to know if the students feel or agree that the activities or the experiences that they had in this online teaching modality are enough for them to be prepared for the next year level. So I want to throw this first question to our guest virtually, Dale. Okay, I want honest answers.
Okay, so good morning again, everyone. In the most honest state that I can give you, I would actually say no. I think that the online modalities today that I am experiencing is not enough for me, for the reason that first, as referred to, as mentioned by Angelo earlier, it's a sudden shift. I mean, I went to school physically for the past 11 years, adding 2 years in preschool. So, and then next, I'm really not used to online learning before, and I had difficulties adjusting to technology, and as said by Ma'am Vel earlier, and also that if we were to continue online learning, our power lines here in Misamis Occidental are actually not certain. There are times that the power lines would cut off at this hour, and then for after 2 hours it will go back again. And number three, the feeling of having classmates beside you physically is more conducive and appealing to learning, because when you have classmates beside you, they can help you and track your progress when it comes to what have you learned. And yeah, studying with classmates is just, the feeling is so nostalgic and energetic, since when you don't understand the teacher or the professor, you can ask your classmates who know more about the subject. And doing that, doing that virtually is, yeah, not the same. And for my last reason, I think that college is more on the practical type of learning, and demonstrations are really needed when you study in college. Like, I mean, I miss the feeling of a teacher or a professor writing equations on the board or writing concepts, because I, for one, am a visual auditory learner. So I need to see everything that I need to learn, and I really need to hear the words of the teacher. So even if it's done virtually, it's just not the same. Yeah, that's it.
mean, I completely agree with Dale in some of the things that he said. Iba pa rin ang face-to-face. Okay, Marvel.
Okay, I think I also understand the way he feels. He misses his classmates a lot. And I also hear that from my kids at home.
I miss my students and my co-teachers.
Yes. Now let's go to Nestor. What can you say about that?
To be completely honest, I don't think I have what it takes to know whether or not I'm ready, because it just so happens that my next level is college, and I have never been in college before. I wouldn't know. But with that said, if I were to try to answer this question, I guess my short answer would be, well, yes, but actually no. My long answer revolves around this principle. I believe that, well, what I've learned over the past few months is that it takes three things to learn, to be prepared for anything. One, it takes time. Two, it requires good material, good material that the student or the learner is consuming. And three, most important, is the attitude of the learner. First off, for time, just like what Angelo said earlier, the pandemic may have been a real pain, but it is, in a way, a blessing in disguise. And one of the blessings in disguise is how much time, how much free time we have to do what we like. And with that said, almost all of us have the time, as long as we do all of our assignments in time, or we don't postpone things for the next day. We have almost all the time we need to do anything. Second, we need to have good material, which I think as long as a teacher were to send the curriculum and that they're there to answer your questions, to explain things you just can't understand by reading, I think that's good material enough. And the best part is the teachers we have, especially here in IDS, they're good at making the material better. In that, lots of them, if you don't understand it, they'll try to find a way to simplify it, right? They'll try to find a way to make it more palatable, like what Sir Neil did when we had like quizzes in physics or like a review. He would gamify it using quizzes. Not only is that fun, but you kind of have to learn if you don't want to be embarrassed with a low score. You know, it's that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, the most important is third, the attitude of the learner. Non, je peux parler français un peu après 3 mois sans son professeur. I learned to speak French just barely in 3 months without any teacher. But even now, I struggle to understand my Filipino textbooks. Why is that? That's not because the teachers are bad. That's not because I didn't have the time. It's just that my attitude towards Filipino compared to French, for example, is just not as positive per se. Likewise with any other subject. It doesn't matter how well the teacher teaches. It doesn't matter how interesting their lessons are. If they don't want to learn, it will go right through their ears. But if they want to learn like Dothraki from Game of Thrones, or if they want to learn calligraphy, they are going to spend as much time as they want in it. Which is why the attitude of the learner is the most important. So yes, it is definitely possible for us to be prepared for the next level, but only if our attitudes allow it.
Thank you so much for that answer, Nestor. It made me think again for the next quarter as to what I'm going to prepare for me to be able to develop a self-motivated learner as you are. Okay, how about you, Sir Neil? Starring ka kanina, ha?
I just want to make my students less bored because I imagine it's already a little bit boring not seeing your friends. So I try to make it gamified, but of course I still focus on allowing them to learn and to really understand my material. So
Okay, now let's go to Angelo.
For a while, can I share
What's
a
your
little
take
bit?
about this question?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What's your answer with the same
Oh, me
question?
first. Okay. So for me personally, to be honest, I think it might just be enough to make a passing grade for next year or next quarter, I feel. But I don't think I'll be able to retain it for a few years after. But then again, as Kuya Nestor said, it definitely depends on me as a student if I feel like or if I am willing to retain this. But still, at the same time, in this online setup, it is fairly difficult to really retain and to really how do you say this, grasp the concepts, especially at my level. Since I'm still grade 10, I'm still learning new concepts about certain subjects. What online learning has taken from classrooms or from learning as a whole are collaborative projects or just physical projects as a whole. Because when you want to, at least for me, when try to understand something, what solidifies my learning is application of the said understanding. So in face-to-face classes, this was in the form of applications for For example, in grade 8 chemistry, we actually created I forgot what I forgot what was it called, but we created what molecular models to really imagine and to really see how molecules look like, even though they're not what they look like, but to really grasp how it looked like. So taking that understanding and applying it to something was what allowed me to solidify what I learned. Now in online setup, it's just a hassle to try and work through online meetings, especially now that when you try to work with your teammates, it's not like everyone can help. Some people are just too distant and too let's say too unreliable, or their connection is unreliable, so they can't really help with the project, or when the project requires a product of physical existence, then only one person can do it, because if everyone does it, it's just impractical, or it will take out the group project as a whole. So yeah, not only that, it's also a risk to go out and buy materials, especially in crowded, not really crowded, but in markets and in school supply stores. So overall, I'm not really confident that the setup right now is enough to prepare for me. Although I can do things and I can prepare for myself, so I can be more resilient for next year. But for me, I don't think this setup is enough.
Angelo, and thank you IDS students for that straightforward answers. Although it's a no, but it gives us a lot of time to think on what to prepare for the next semester. So the challenge is within us. How are we going to convert that no to a yes some other time, next time? Okay, so this time let's give Stephanie the chance to answer that same question, although in a modified manner. Was your practice teaching done in online modality enough to prepare you for that teaching career?
Yes, I believe that my practice teaching exposure was indeed enabled to equip me with the skills that I need as a teacher. The educational setup may have changed considering the fact that it was online, yet nothing has changed when it comes to what we are expected in learning this experience. It was even fun, and it really taught me how to maximize the use of technology when it comes to teaching. All our mentors also did a great job for shaping us to be a great teacher as they are. They also boast our confidence in facing our teaching career. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank them for the efforts they have exerted to support us all throughout the practice teaching, and to our students as well.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. We have some pretty interesting answers, Dr. Mordeno. Is there anything you'd like to add from the perspective of psychology in relation to the experiences
sorry,
that you shared?
I cut it off kanina, no? I was very excited with all the sharing, so I thought all the students already shared. Anyway, there are some points that I wanted to say, no? Few years back, I mean, not really a few years back, but prior to COVID, we had a study, and this has been published. We have a number of publications about this one, where it indicated, and that includes also IDS as students, as respondents, right? It indicated there in our results that positive emotions sustain classes. Sustain interest, sorry. Positive emotions sustain interest, sustain learning. While negative emotion will also activate students to learn more, but in a short duration. No? So in a recent publication that we had, it indicated that, if students feel positive about the subject, feel positive about the subject matter, for that matter, so the subject matter, they tend to find ways to learn. But if they find the subject matter threatening, they will still find ways to learn, but in a short duration. That's why in the sharing, you could say, kanina, with the son of Dr. Grahida, it's the attitude, but actually what he was saying is actually the positive emotion that sustains learning. Well, the negative emotions, of course, out of negative emotions like fear, we have to learn because we will fail. It creates somehow learning also. It motivates learning, but in a short duration of time. We had that study, and I guess we just recently published that. Now, the point here, actually, with the sharing of Dale, Angelo, and I forgot the son of, Dr. Grahida, kaya wala magud sa monitor. But I will tell you, this is a validation of what we already knew. Now, what is happening right now with the virtual or the online learning or the remote learning, is that this amplifies. No? Meaning to say, yung positive emotions that sustain learning, once the positive emotions are there in the learning process, they will be more interested to do certain efforts and initiatives to learn more. But for those students who already had these negative emotions about the subject or the subject matter, they will still do certain things, but in a very short duration of time. That's why students forget the topics. So the role of teachers, and I have to say this because I'm also a teacher, is how to motivate students somehow. I don't want to be corny, but somehow like this, no? The challenge of teachers is how to let students fall in love with the subject. How students would fall in love with physics, with math, with English. Because if they will fall in love with the subjects and the subject matters, also, of course, no? And the topics rather, then they will find ways. But those students who are afraid, fearful, angry, they will still do things. But the moment you are out, they will try to drop everything. It enhances what we call now as a psychological distance. No? A psychological distance, of course, we are socially distant, but in the interaction between students and teachers, there seems to be what we call psychological distance. Why? Because if teachers are not engaging and students are not engaged, there seems to be a very high psychological distance. But if that's the subject matter is engaging, like what the student said about Sir Neil, probably the distance is becoming shorter. No, the psychological distance in the online learning is becoming shorter. So, and this is very important. Why? Because as a teacher, my first lecture online, hindi sa Pilipinas but abroad, right? I felt that I was giving a lecture to dead people. Why? Because hindi ko naman makita yung mukha. I could not say, I could not sense the emotional expression while they are listening to me. No? So I find it very difficult. Sabi ko nga sa colleague ko, I felt like I am lecturing in a cemetery. No? So it was a challenge where we need to engage students more, not by giving more requirements, but by letting them talk, by letting them participate, so that they will somehow fall in love with the subject. And the moment they fall in love with the subject, it will sustain their interest into that subject. I hate math, right? But when I had this teacher that let me fell in love with math, I became a statistician, right? So aside from being a psychologist, so the idea there is that it's a challenge, lalo na ngayon, na online tayo ngayon, virtual learning tayo, to really let our students fall in love with our subject. Now, it's not easy for teachers, especially for teachers who are not trained that way. Teachers who believed that, it's carrot and stick still, right? Of course, you can always do that. But it's always a challenge. And of course, for the students to find a reason, even though walang reason, to find a reason to fall in love with that subject. And that is also a challenge in part of the students, because ultimately, in the end, learning is your responsibility. It's the responsibility of the students. Teachers can only guide, motivate, and somehow push students to learn more. But in the end, it's the responsibility also of the students. Neil, that's all.
Very timely for Valentine's Day. It's all about love.
Yeah, you have to love the subject.
And just be careful, in making students fall in love with the subject. They might fall in love with the teacher. Oh.
No, I mean, it's just interesting that all of these things Dr. Mordeno shared, we kind of have an inkling, and we kind of know that maybe that's the right thing to do. But Dr. Mordeno just makes it interesting by backing it up with science. Would you agree? And mathematics. I hope you're not offended, but
I have accepted that a long time ago already.
He actually said that Dr. Mordeno eventually learned to love math, and
so it's really a challenge for us teachers on how we can make our lesson interesting and lovable, so that students will fall in love with our subject.
On that note, maybe we'll fall in love with this next part of our program. while we listen to the angelic voice of one of our IDEA students, Jean Dominic Alimania, and he shares a song entitled Rise Up. She's timely.
Okay, yes. Let's give her a virtual applause.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we can walk it out. Ooh, mountains, we can walk it out. Ooh, mountains, and I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves, I'll rise up, in spite of the ache, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. The silence isn't quiet, feels like it's getting hard to breathe. I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Ooh, mountains, bring it to its feet. Ooh, mountains, and I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. All we need is hope, and that we have each other, but that we have each other. Yeah. We will rise, and we'll rise up. We'll rise, and I'll rise up, rise like the day, I'll rise up, in spite of the ache, I'll rise 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up, high like the waves, we'll rise up, in spite of the ache, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you.
Thank you, Jean, for the very amazing performance. Sir Neil?
So far, we have been able to talk about 4 main points. I actually listed down the 4 main points that have been discussed so far. First is the positive impact of the pandemic, the challenges that each one of us has encountered, the learning designs or ways to keep learners engaged, and finally, the impressions of the students in this setup. We have also heard a lot of wisdom from our guest expert. But do you know that this event is actually live? And that there are people out there watching us live, and maybe they have questions. So let's give a few minutes of time for the audience to ask questions. So
Yes, if you have any questions, you just comment on our Facebook Live or in YouTube Live, and then we'll give a chance. We'll give you the chance to ask your questions by reading it and directing it to the person that you want to answer your question. Again, we encourage all our listeners, students, teachers, parents at home. If you have anything that you want to ask, we have an expert here in the person of Dr. Mordeno. And we have parents and teachers as well here and our students. So they're very willing to entertain your question. Now is your chance. So please give us a comment. Sir Neil, what else can you say while waiting for the questions?
well, I'm just waiting for the questions as maybe there are some interesting remarks from our audience. But of course, if there are none, then we can proceed to asking our guests if they have any advice as a parent, as a teacher, as a student on how they can cope with this situation that we are currently in. You know, I would like to ask Ma'am Shidel, as a parent, what advice can you give to all parents watching about how we can help our children cope up with this current setup?
Okay. As a parent, because like I have heard from my students that when they are having their classes, you know, they cannot focus because they are placed in a situation like, for example, because they are in their, like some are they're in their business or things like that, or else they are given household chores. So I think that as parents, we should also support our children because the situation now is really different. They need to focus also. So if there are things, I know it's very difficult because the reasons why sometimes because the children have or the students have to help their parents at home, and that's just very normal. But as parents, we should also support them. There's such thing. There is so-called synchronous and asynchronous classes, right? So we parents, we should also manage our time. When we are going to let our children do household chores or maybe help us in our business or something, we should know when they're supposed to be focused and when not. So maybe we should support them all the way too because they cannot do two things at the same time. So when it is time for them to really have classes, then maybe we should refrain from giving them tasks. And maybe also we should be considerate also and support them all the way on how, especially with the problem about the internet connection, that has really been a very great problem with all of us, right? Especially our students. So we should support them all the way.
Thank you for that answer, Ma'am Shidel. Now, before we proceed to the next message, I would like to read a comment from our audience. We have one from Dr. Rebecca Alcazar. Okay, she said, let me quote, "True, Sir Mords, we need the students to join the discussion, although they are not at home online, so that they will internalize our lesson and will love our subject." Okay, thank you for that comment, Ma'am Rebecca. We also encourage some of our listeners, audience, and viewers at home, if ever you want to share something, you can just drop a comment in our Facebook Live or in YouTube Live. Now, as we continue, I would like to ask a message from Miss Christine. Yes, to all aspiring teachers, or you're already a teacher, right?
Yeah.
For those who are doing their jobs at the same time they're schooling, okay, I want you to give a short message for them.
Okay, my message to those as aspiring teachers is that in this time of pandemic, we need to really have a patience to our students, especially that we have a lot of troubles like the slow internet connection because not all of us are fortunate to have a a stable connection. And then we really need to understand those students that had a handicap of of technology, because not as we all know that not all of us are literally literate of the devices, gadgets. Not just some students, but also the teachers and parents are adjusting to this new mode of learning. My mother is also a teacher, and that he really find it hard to you know to 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 teach online, because she herself is not literate. Even with a cell phone, I teach her, and also in the computer, when when she wants a file to be uploaded, I need to put it in the desktop in order for her to really see the file. And then, so for the students as well, you need to understand the teachers that we are also adapting to this change. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Well, you said some very interesting things earlier, and you've shared a lot of advice. But I was wondering if there's something else you'd like to share as a final word of advice to our audience this morning.
Yes, this pandemic has brought about a lot of changes, not just in the education sector, but in all sectors of the country and in the world, of course. So with these changes, we have to adapt in order to grow, dear teachers. So my greatest advice for you would be to do not be afraid. Okay? So do not be afraid to try new things, to learn new things, to learn new skills, and do not be afraid to make mistakes. Okay? Kaya dear students, please do not make fun of your teachers or bash your teachers who is also in the process of learning. Okay? Because in this pandemic now, with this new modality of teaching, we are all students. Okay? So please be considerate, dear students. And what else? To be specific, dear teachers, I encourage you to take certifications like Google certifications, Apple, and Microsoft. They're all available online. So you can take all those certifications in order for you to further learn new skills, especially technological skills. No, what else? Talk with others, dear teachers. Vent out whatever you want to say, and or you can simply connect with co-educators, because it's very important for us to see new perspectives as well. And last but not the least, enjoy the things that you are doing. Okay? So with that, I wish you luck and thank you for inviting me po. Thank you.
Thank you too, Val. How
Thank
about
you,
you,
Val.
Stephanie?
For me, teaching profession is not easy as you think it is. If you really decide to become an educator, you really have to be selfless, and just like any other profession, you have to do your responsibilities wholeheartedly. I may not have the the experience teaching for a longer period of time, but through my practice teaching experience, it helps me to realize those things. So selflessness is a key for you to achieve your goals as a teachers when it comes to teaching. And yeah, so you have to get out from your comfort zone and try other things to help to adjust the needs of the variety of students.
Thank you, Stephanie. How about Angelo? Any advice that you want to give to all junior high school students?
Then we can hear from Nestor after Angelo.
I'm not really a sophisticated person, so it feels very, very weird to give advice, especially to all junior high students. But I guess my only advice is to keep yourself busy. And I don't mean that you should just be playing games, browsing Facebook, TikTok, or any other social media. Just keep your brain active. Do chores, work on your hobbies, try out home workouts, play some recreational sports with your families, maybe learn new skills, or you can develop and monetize your old skills, etc. Try as much as you can to avoid boredom. Personally, I would like to thank my badminton group named Investments the Champ for playing badminton with me while also following safety protocols, of course. They have definitely helped me cope with this harsh reality, and I am grateful to have them as players. But anyways, I learned this quote back when I was still, I don't know, grade 4, grade 3. Nothing speeds up brain atrophy more than the monotony of boredom. In other words, if you don't want a rotten brain, don't be bored. So yeah, that's all for me.
And for my for my batch and senior high students in general, the only advice I have is keep trying your best, keep fighting, and if you fought your hardest but still can't win, just know that at least you tried your hardest. And I would like to quote one of the most ubiquitous quotes of Einstein that I'm sure everybody and their mothers have heard. Everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its entire life thinking it's stupid. And with that said, I know that the teachers are trying their hardest. The teachers are doing everything they can to accommodate the students, to make them love their subject. And if you, after trying the hardest you can, still can't learn to love the subject, don't be worried, because at the end of the day, it is your uniqueness. It is you as a person it is you as a person whom you should first listen to, as opposed to anyone else, as opposed to any school system or educational system or society. Because at the end of the day, it is your life.
Thank you, Angelo and Nestor. How about a message from our virtual guest, Dale? Any final word of advice?
Anil?
Uh,
Go. Sorry.
Okay. I am speaking in behalf of my batchmates who are not from Iligan. I would like to address them. They're from Pagadian, from Cagayan, anywhere in Lanao del Norte, and even Misamis Occidental, and we even have one in Samar, I think. I know that we guys left our respective cities and municipalities to try and live in the big city. And yeah, I know that passing IDS, the shape, was memorable and quite a big achievement. And we set foot in IDS believing that it could change a new perspective and it could change a part of our lives. And yeah, this pandemic came, and I think it just cut us off of our responsibilities. But let me tell you guys that everything's gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this, and if we wish to go back to Iligan, let's just pray and hope that the future will be bright, and that I would also like to uh, give a reminder to other students as well that if you think that trying to act cool by disrespecting our teachers in this time of a pandemic, you're constantly ranting out your emotions without even knowing a deeper cause. I think that's not good, and I think we should stop that because, yeah, as mentioned earlier, our teachers are trying to do their best, and yeah, we do not live in an idealistic world. This is a realistic approach to the pandemic. So yeah, let's all try to understand, pray that everything will be all right and everything that will be back to normal, because as uh, we're going to be in college the next school year, some of us in grade 12, we need to have a positive attitude and positive perspectives first before we enter college, because college is not an easy thing. And yeah, let's just hope and pray that we're gonna make it, we're gonna graduate with flying colors, and we're gonna attain our dreams. I think that would be all.
Thank you very much, Dale. Before we proceed to the final synthesis of our main points that are shared to us this morning by no other than our resident expert, Dr. Mordeno, I'd just like to read this comment, or perhaps this is a question or a comment. Okay, so I'm just gonna, or a suggestion. Okay. If there are educators who are interested in taking Apple, Microsoft, and Google certifications, I would be happy to help. So this is an offer of help from one of our guest speakers, Miss Vel Marisi Palisbo. Thank you very much, Vel, for offering help to those who would like to be certified. Let us now allow our psychologist, Dr. Mordeno, to synthesize the major points in our show this morning. Hello, sir.
Hello, Neil. I would like to present a PowerPoint lang kadiyot, no? This is just actually on, according to studies on how to cope effectively with the pandemic-related distress, no? I will share to you very briefly lang, no? For a while here. Okay. Could you see that in the screen, Neil?
It's loading, sir. Okay na, sir. Present na.
Okay, okay na. Okay. Okay, so there are a few things according to the extant literature about how to move forward, no? Because the idea is that we could not move on to this pandemic-related distress. Why? Because it's still ongoing. And the rule in psychology is that if you could not move on, then you have to move forward. No? And according to studies, there are two levels. I summarize this. There are two levels in moving forward. No? The first one is in the physiological level, and the second one is in the psychological level. In the physiological level, there are only three things. Okay. First, according to studies in the world, according to World Health Organization, exercise regularly. 45 minutes to 1 hour, according to studies, would be a good coping way, no, of how to deal with pandemic-related distress. Then second, according to, again, several studies, sleep well, sleep tight. It's the quality of sleep that matters. No? So no matter how much or the extent how busy you are, but the idea is that you need to sleep well and you have to sleep tight, and you have to do that regularly. And the third suggestion in the physiological level, as what the studies would say, is to eat regularly and eat healthy. Now, on the psychological level, we have a lot, no? But I will just summarize this. Now, first, be aware of your vulnerabilities. All of us are not heroes in this pandemic. We may have similar experiences. We may, sail in the same river, but we are riding rather in different boats. No? So, meaning to say, our experiences may differ from each other, and just to be aware of your vulnerabilities. Second, remember, it takes time to adapt. Don't force yourself to deal and say that you are right when it is not right. As what I have said all the time, it is okay not to be okay at this point of time. Okay. Third, and this will really help a lot according to studies and even to my own clinical practice, plan daily routine. No, it helps adapting to the new normal. Then another one is divide your time clearly as work and non-work times, meaning to say, divide clearly the time where you will work in your academics and you will not work in your academics. You have academic life and you have a non-academic life. You have to distinguish that in your headspace. And in an academic life, you have to work. And according to studies, the best way to work in academic times is that you have to work in short bursts, 45 minutes to 1 hour. You can work and then 15 minutes break and then have another 45 minutes to 1 hour work. Then have another break. No, so The idea there is that you have to have clear distinction of your academic work and non-academic times, rather academic schedule and non-academic schedule. And then another one is pick up a physical activity of your choice. It will really help a lot, and according to studies, it will in fact not only make you become resilient, but it can make you thrive well, not only in this pandemic related in pandemic related distress, but all other stresses in life. Okay, and then another one is exercise breathing, and that's basically very technical. If you do yoga, you do yoga if you want. Then learn skills and hobbies. I guess this was actually stated with our students' way of coping. Learn new skills and new hobbies, and then pick an activity that makes you feel joy and makes you want to perform it better. Okay. However, it is important to be reasonable and modest with expectations you set to yourself and others. Okay, meaning to say you don't expect too much. Lower your expectations, especially with regard to your definition of what is excellence. No, and in your academic work, work in short bursts, as what I have said, and be active in groups through interactive programs. You may have been in social isolation or in quarantine, but the idea there is actually engage still in groups through interactive platforms. So, practical tips na lang as a clinician. Avoid information traps. Go for credible sources of information, because information can create so much anxiety. We already knew that. And then after, seek help. Do not be hesitant to seek help. If you think you need help, seek help. If you think you need to seek medical help, seek medical help. Go to the experts, go to your counselors, go to your teachers. And if you are teachers and you still are bothered, go to your friends. And if you could not go to your friends, then seek professional help. Okay? Then focus on facts. Don't believe everything you read. Why? Because anxiety makes you prone to believe in fake news. And why is it that people are believing fake news? Because they have to make sense out of their anxiety and out of their depression and out of their mental health condition. So focus on facts, then verify your suspicion. So lastly, when we experience distress, how we will respond transform us. Okay, so meaning to say, it is not that the pandemic makes our world basically or defines our well-being, but it is actually how we respond to this pandemic, how we respond to the distress, how we respond to the disaster that makes us or transforms us into better individuals. And for that, I will leave this to the audience, and I would like also to present to you, and I would like to request Mitch, that if you want to assess your mental health condition, I just decided now to open up a Google platform, Google format, address, Mitch. She is there in MSU-IIT VMC. If you are interested, go here. It will be open only for 3 days. This is not a diagnosis, okay? But it somehow helps you in detecting if you are already doing right mentally, or if you are not doing right mentally. So you could proceed to you could rather go to mental health professionals to seek help. Your counselors are there, and probably your teachers are also there. This is not, again, a diagnosis. This will just somehow provide you with detection of certain mental health condition. And once you answer that, it is anonymous. You will receive an email with all the results and the suggestions immediately. It's a templated interpretation and suggestions, and after which your name will be deleted. Meaning to say, we have automated that the moment you submit, if you will not respond to us, your names will be deleted, meaning your personal information is safe, because still your answers will be anonymous. And if you will respond back, your answers will be confidential. Okay, so this is how we can help our students and help our parents also, or teachers, in somehow assessing the level of our mental health condition. Neil, thank you very much for the opportunity of inviting me here. The Google form, I guess, will be on the chat box. You can copy it and paste, and it will be open for 3 days. That's all.
Well, as that may be the last time na magstorya ka for this, we are near the end of our show. Thank you for your wonderful insights and for the practical tips that you shared earlier. Thank you as well for providing us with a virtual version a virtual version of a consultation, which is that
I
you.
would like to encourage everyone to avail. This is your 3-day chance to assess yourself. If you're worried, it's really a great opportunity that is given to us by our professional psychologist, Dr. Mordeno.
I'd also like to personally thank our guests, Stephanie, Nestor, Christine, Dr. Graheda, and also our virtual guests.
And the committee as well, and the administrators.
Yeah,
as well as
Angelo,
our audience.
Angelo, Dale, and of course
Dr.
Vel,
Mordeno.
and of course Dr. Mordeno. Thank you. And I also like to thank the members of the committee. I hope you can come up front and show yourselves earlier after the hymno ng pamantasan. Okay? I'd like to
Everything will
thank
not be possible without all of you.
Ma'am Charity Mulig. Thank you for this wonderful idea, the Charity Mulig Cruise.
Ma'am Roxy.
Right? So, to close the program, let's listen to the hymno ng pamantasan.
And of course, our dean. We were not able to thank our dean,
Yeah, Dr. Ami Tibon. Thank you for your welcome message. And Dale, thank you for opening up that no, for saying no, and that really opened up avenue for the rest of the members of this student guests to be honest about how they feel. I think you are responsible for that.
And also don't forget our principal, IDS principal, Maminda Sexon, who's with us right now.
Thank you very much for your support, Maminda Sexon. And Angela, of course, thank you for adhering. I was actually the one who asked Angela to be one of the guests, and he didn't hesitate. Maybe he has a lot to say as well. And okay, on air, I'd like to also thank Angelo. If you noticed that the Kapihan poster is really nice. That's one thing that I learned from our. Are they Gen X or what are they? What do you call yourselves? Gen Z?
Gen Z.
Yeah.
I think so.
By the way, Sir Neil will also receive their certificates, no?
Yeah, they'll receive this. Yeah. Thank you, Vel Marie. Vel, you were just a young student of mine before. Now, you've gone so far. You're making your mark in this world, and I'm so proud of you. Just like to say that I'm very proud of you, and hoping for more wonderful things to come in front of you. And thank you for gracing this occasion as well. Right. So we're just waiting for the technical committee to play the silahes. Okay. So I think it's ready right now.